Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So I've been doing this for 9 years, and for 9 years I've been saying, sun always shines on Encaenia Day. And the weather has been so lousy this year, apparently it's true. The sun always shines on Encaenia Day. It's an honor to welcome you to the 235th Encaenia of the University of King's College. Which is the 10th convocation for the MFA in Creative Nonfiction and the first convocation for the MFA in Fiction. For a small university that thinks it's a college, or maybe it's the other way around, a King's graduation is a large and complicated affair. And I am pleased to be here with my colleague, Dr. Kim Brooks, because this is also a Dalhousie convocation, if it wasn't complex enough already. We are also graced with the regal presence of our Chancellor, Deborah Dean Little, overseeing everything. And this year, we are also joined by Dr. Rustam Southwell, the Chancellor of Dalhousie, which is wonderful. So, if from time to time you get confused about who is doing what and why, that will probably be because we are as well. So there's a lot of moving parts. And so now is a very good time to recognize Dr. Sarah Clift, whose official title is the Clerk of Convocation, but what she really is doing is air traffic control. So, graduands, today belongs to you, obviously. So everyone who's not getting a degree today, I want you to stand up as you are able and join me in delivering a heartfelt, sustained ovation for the formidable class of 2025. And it goes on and on. So that really was a very impressive ovation. It seems to me, class of 2025, you are held in high regard. Now, I've heard you make noise many times. So it's your turn to rise up and let everyone hear you with your biggest ovation to your family, friends, your faculty, and everyone who's helped you achieve your academic goals. Off you go! Also really impressive. Well done. We have a huge crowd in the Rebecca Cone this afternoon. King's is rocking it in the Rebecca Cone. So whether you're leaving here having created a manuscript, a thesis, a hypothesis, a composition, or a portfolio of essays or stories. I hope that you have come to know more about yourself and what you are capable of, which is anything you turn your mind and hand to. Your work and life at King's and Dalhousie has required a willingness to open yourself up to new ideas, new versions of yourself, and to sit with some of life's and the world's big and essential questions, the ones that remain unanswered even after you have made your way through the long reading list King's is famous for. In fact, if you're leaving with more questions than you arrived with, well, you've joined an illustrious line of people who have pursued a liberal education and lived to tell the tale, who choose to engage with the complex and enduring questions for which there are no simple explanations, the ones asked by generations of artists, scholars in all fields, journalists, writers, and yes, even university presidents. The questions, in other words, that the King's interdisciplinary approach to learning is made for. And sitting with those big questions, often without the certainty of answers or assurances about your own or our future, is not easy. You can doubt yourself and the choice you have made for an education that can seem like a diversion to some from the important task of finding a job and earning an income. That takes perseverance, but something more. I think it takes courage. So by now, some of you must be thinking, did the iconic Canadian rock band, The Tragically Hip, say anything about all this? Great question. Indeed, they did, in one of their biggest anthems and most recognizable songs called Courage, written by the late Gord Downie. Fans know the song's full title is Courage for Hugh McLennan, a song that sounds like a brash celebration of courage when belted out at concerts, sporting events, and in bars, or used as a soundtrack, is the subtle tribute of one Canadian artist to another. If you're not familiar with the song and you're starting to worry that, oh God, he may sing, don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I will share a few of the lyrics with you just in a moment. In case you don't know McLennan, I'll tell you a little about him. We are Kings, however, so I know many of you are already indignantly saying, of course I know who Hugh McLennan was. I am reminded of the welcome day when I found an incoming student sitting under a tree in the quad reading Northrop Frye. McLennan was a 20th century writer who lived in Montreal and taught at McGill. He was one of Leonard Cohen's professors. Some of his books were important to me when I was in high school. He was from Nova Scotia and wrote about people that I could identify with, in part because they were Maritimers like me. Each Man's Son was about a boy growing up in a coal mining town in Cape Breton, like the one McLennan was born in. Barometer Rising was inspired by the Halifax explosion, which happened when McLennan was a child living in Halifax. McLennan was brave enough to write novels about Canadian people, places, and events when conventional wisdom was that there would be no market for them, and the literary establishment thought Canada was incapable or unworthy of creating its own literature. He wrote the books he wanted to write anyway, and in doing so, helped to establish a Canadian literary culture, a culture that now includes a diversity of voices and perspectives that McLennan could probably not have imagined. But it wasn't easy. He faced doubters, and he questioned himself along the way. The Tragically Hip did something similar in music. When they started, success for a Canadian band meant commercial acceptance in the United States. Instead, they created songs so specific to the Canadian experience, they're now part of our culture. And not just the positive parts. Near the end of his life, Downey used music to call for accountability for the national shame of residential schools. The inspiration for the song Courage was McLennan's book, The Watch That Ends the Night. Some of the lyrics paraphrase part of the last chapter of that book. They go like this: "There's no simple explanation for anything important any of us do, and yeah, the human tragedy consists in the necessity of living with the consequences, under pressure, under pressure." Both the novel and the song are works of art of artists being introspective about the process of creating, accepting that there's never a simple way to explain why people behave as they do, whether they are characters in books or songs or the people writing them. Yet we are drawn to carry on, trying to understand ourselves and each other. Downey follows the lines I've read with the song's chorus: "Courage, my word, it didn't come, it didn't matter." That's an important part. The song and the book are about forging ahead when certainty, and indeed courage, elude us. More than a celebration of courage, the song is a lament on how often we need to follow our desire to understand more deeply and to make our voices heard in the firmament without the reinforcement of courage to do so, and how difficult that can be. Sometimes when people after the fact credit us with being courageous, it's hard to accept. We didn't feel courageous at the time. Instead, we were unsure or afraid. And yet, we forged ahead. Among the many things you accomplished during your degrees was this: you forged ahead in your studies and in creating a community that believes our work in the humanities, journalism, natural and social sciences, music, and creative writing is important not only to ourselves, but the world's understanding of the fundamental questions of our time and all times. And you did it, as Downey wrote, under pressure of all kinds. I think that is courage, even if it may have felt at times that courage did not come when it mattered. Downey's fascination with McLennan and with other Canadian artists of an earlier generation is an example of how we, in the liberal arts, are always in conversation not only with our contemporaries, but also with those of the past and of the future. The questions and conversations never end. It is the liberal arts tradition we are proudly part of. We question relentlessly and embrace complexity, ambiguity, and uncertainty, welcoming insight from those who see things differently. This way of learning, it's really a way of living, will abide in you and serve you well as you move on with careers or further study. You can take inspiration from those who will soon be your fellow alumni. I am always amazed by the breadth and diversity of their career success, by their contributions to the world, and by their success in making lives that are about more than their careers. I look forward to watching you succeed as they have in your own beautifully diverse ways. Gord Downey and Hugh McLennan embraced the complexity and ambiguity of our existence and understood that the questions are the point. Amazingly, Downey made all of that into a song that is fun to dance to. They both tried to make the human tragedy we all face more bearable. As one McLennan character put it, to love the mystery surrounding us. Near the end of The Watch That Ends the Night, the protagonist tells the reader to go to the musicians, to hear the last possible harmony, a will to live, love, grow, and be grateful, to struggle and work for that. At the end is all there is left. Class of 2025, I want to thank you for choosing Kings and Dalhousie, for your journey to the edge of what you knew, for challenging yourself to keep asking questions, for moving forward even when the path was uncertain. Today, as you step into another of life's great unknowns, be assured that your King's community will always support and believe in you. If ever you need a little extra courage, think of us all in this room together on this day for you. We are with you all the way. Congratulations.
Dr. Kim Brooks, thank you.
So I'm rarely at a loss for words. So I'm thinking about the remarks of President Lahey. We're friends and colleagues, and we've known each other for some time. And when I was first asking him after my first time as part of this event last year, what greetings from the president of Dalhousie should look like, he said, in a way you'll now see characteristic as a nice mix of humor and deliberation, I think it behooves the president of Dalhousie to keep the greetings short. I have prepared remarks which are focused primarily on the honor that it is at Dalhousie to be part of this long-standing partnership with King's, and of the difference I think that makes to the lives of students, and also how proud I am of you. But Bill's remarks were so good. Let me say only that we belong to a tradition of lawyers, Bill and I, and lawyers have a very peculiar way of doing things, which is normally what happens is, one of them on the bench writes the decision, and then the other one says, in words only lawyers would use, after great care and consideration, I concur. And so I'm happy to share my remarks with anyone who wants them, but what I want to do is just lean into the remarks of my esteemed and generous colleague, President Lahey, and say, only today I concur. Congratulations.